This podcast is brought to you by Wild Education. And please vote for our friend Shawin from the Goosebumps Crew podcast to win the Face of Halloween 2025. The link is in the description. Your vote is appreciated.
Welcome back to the AI Analysis Podcast. Today, we're revisiting an argument that still divides the Star Wars fandom to this day. And Toon Talk 2.0's episode will be our guide.
Yes, this one. It's definitely still a hot topic.
Indeed. So in this segment, the debate, we're tackling that significant point of contention, the quality and the overall impact of Star Wars, The Last Jedi.
Right. And the central question, I suppose, is, well, is The Last Jedi a commendable, maybe even evolutionary chapter in the Star Wars saga? Or is it actually, a fundamentally flawed film that really undermined the franchise?
Exactly. And for today's discussion, I'll be presenting the perspective that the film is actually a valuable, often misunderstood entry, that it offers layers of meaning, challenges established norms, generally aligning with the more appreciative insights we heard from Virus in that Toon Talk 2.0 conversation.
And I'm coming at this from, let's say, a very different angle. I'll be arguing that The Last Jedi is pretty unequivocally one of the weakest Star Wars films. And that's rooted in, frankly, a profoundly problematic script and execution. My position aligns much more strongly with the critical viewpoints that Jake articulated in that discussion.
Okay, so to elaborate on my position first, I genuinely believe The Last Jedi is a vital addition to the Star Wars saga. Its real strength, I think, lies in its sincere attempts to actually evolve the narrative and the characters, to move beyond just, repeating past triumphs. The film, I feel, masterfully integrates thematic and narrative elements from previous Star Wars movies, but it presents them with a fresh, sometimes challenging perspective, one that's designed to resonate maybe differently with longtime fans and a new generation. Take Luke Skywalker's portrayal, for instance, a disillusioned Hermit Lake figure. Now, many critics call this character assassination, right? But I see it as a deliberate, nuanced reflection of his trauma and growth. It really echoes Yoda's own initial appearance to Luke, remember? Seemingly erratic, even nonsensical, but ultimately testing and guiding. Luke's retreat, his inner conflict, well, to my mind, that's a natural consequence of the profound loss and guilt he felt with Ben Solo's fall. And furthermore, the film introduces these compelling new elements that I think enrich the lore, like Rey being Force Raw, this innate power unrefined by traditional training, and the intriguing bifurcation in the Force, this thing that creates a unique and powerful bond between her and Kylo Ren. It's not just a simple connection, it sort of implies a deeper entanglement. And, despite all the passionate fan criticism, the film's financial performance, over $1.3 billion worldwide on a $317 million budget. That undeniable success attests to its broad commercial appeal. It found a massive audience.
Okay, I find that perspective, difficult to reconcile with the film's numerous deficiencies as I see them. From my vantage point, The Last Jedi is genuinely a poor film, and primarily it's down to a deeply problematic script that I think betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of Star Wars core principles, its spirit. Director Rian Johnson's choices felt sometimes more like a deliberate provocation, maybe even trolling, as Jake put it, of long-standing fans, rather than a respectful continuation.
Oh, I don't know about trolling.
Well, we see it in things like the insertion of really ill-fitting, almost juvenile humor, like the Your Mama joke from Poe Dameron, right at the start of a major conflict. It just severely diminishes the gravitas, the stakes of the moment. And beyond that, the film presents these baffling character decisions. Luke Skywalker, the beacon of hope, just cavalierly tosses his father's lightsaber over his shoulder, and his subsequent behavior just swings wildly. One minute he's thinking about burning down the Jedi Temple with the ancient texts, the next he's worried about saving them? This inconsistency, it just makes him unrecognizable. And the handling of Kylo Ren is similarly flawed, I think. Snoke's dismissive taunt calling him a kid playing dress-up, It provokes not some formidable display of dark side power, but basically a petulant outburst, a hissy fit. And that just detracts from any menace or complex internal conflict the character might have had before. And then perhaps the most egregious narrative misstep for me is the entire Canto Bight subplot. It's a narrative dead end. It feels like it gratuitously shoehorns in this simplistic, violence is bad on all sides moral equivalency that just fundamentally clashes with Star Wars' usually clear, resonant portrayal of good versus evil. All right, let's maybe start our core discussion with that critical issue of character integrity, specifically Luke Skywalker. I really maintain his character wasn't just evolved, it was fundamentally undermined. What, many fans rightly call character assassination.
It's pretty well documented that even Mark Hamill himself reportedly expressed significant discomfort with the direction his character took. And that speaks volumes, doesn't it? How could this unwavering hero, known for his relentless optimism, his commitment, how could he be so poorly conceived as to just abandon his responsibilities and retreat into this cynical isolation? His actions, like, indecisively approaching the Jedi texts or repeating lines almost nonsensically, they don't feel like calculated wisdom. It feels like inconsistent writing. This portrayal, for me and many others, feels like a profound betrayal of the character we knew, his established path. The choices just strip him of agency, of heroism, leaving this shell that bears little resemblance to the Jedi Master he was meant to become.
Okay, I do understand why that interpretation resonates, especially given, our collective deep affection for Luke. However, I'd propose a different lens here. As I sort of alluded to earlier, Luke's initial appearance, his actions, I think they consciously mirror Yoda's. Remember how Yoda deliberately played the part of a crazy old man with Luke, testing his patience, his assumptions? Luke's profound depression, his self-imposed isolation, these aren't random acts of giving up. They are, I think, a direct, understandable consequence of his massive failure with Ben Solo, the immense guilt, the trauma of losing his nephew, and believing he played a key part in it. That would naturally lead a powerful, deeply empathetic Force user to retreat and question absolutely everything. His actions like, say, strategically hiding specific ancient texts rather than just burning everything down, I think those were calculated. He wasn't indecisive about saving the texts. He knew which ones were truly vital to preserve, separate from the physical temple itself. And regarding Kylo Ren, Snoke's taunt, it wasn't about reducing Kylo to a hissy fit. I see it as deliberate, masterful manipulation, designed to inflict maximum psychological damage. Snoke was actively, damaging Kylo Ren's ego, chipping away at his self-worth to ignite a more potent, unrestrained dark side. It's a classic Sith tactic, isn't it? Echoing the Emperor's constant psychological torment of Anakin, fueling his anger, reinforcing his dependence. It's actually quite a sophisticated demonstration of dark side control, pushing Kylo to break free and fully embrace his inner darkness.
That's a compelling case for character nuance, I'll grant you that. But it doesn't really address the broader issue, does it? The script's numerous logical inconsistencies, its casual rule-breaking, as I see it, within the established Star Wars universe. I mean, take Leia's improbable survival after being blown into the vacuum of space, using the Force to somehow pull herself back to the ship.
Right.
Or the sudden introduction of these really powerful Force healing abilities without any prior canonical explanation or build-up. These feel like narrative conveniences, almost deus ex machina moments, rather than organic extensions of what we know the Force can do. It's a bit like the Matrix sequels, which many people argued started introducing abilities and plot devices that just didn't make sense within the rules their own world had so carefully established. This kind of approach, it cheapens the narrative. It undermines the internal logic that lets us invest in the stakes. And furthermore, the character of Rose Tico, while maybe well-intentioned, she became the vehicle for a particularly jarring narrative choice. Her intervention to stop Finn's heroic sacrifice, it felt contrived. It robbed his character of a potentially powerful redemptive moment and inserted this romantic subplot that ultimately served very little purpose in the bigger picture. It felt less like
Natural plot development and more like a forced moral statement hammered home.
See, I'm not entirely convinced by that line of reasoning, particularly the idea of rule-breaking with the Force. The Force itself as this mystical energy field, couldn't it be understood as evolving? Its manifestations changing over time with usage. We see shifts in how it's expressed across different eras in Star Wars lore. Maybe with fewer established Jedi or Sith actively using it, the Force concentrates in new, maybe more intense ways, allowing for abilities that might seem extraordinary compared to another time. It's not necessarily breaking rules, but maybe the game itself evolving. Think of it like basketball, right? The fundamental rules stay the same, but new players bring new techniques, new strategies that completely change how the game is played at the highest level.
Okay, an analogy.
Yeah, and while I do acknowledge that some specific scenes might initially seem jarring or, yes, don't make sense at first glance based on our preconceived notions, I actually believe the film deliberately challenges those assumptions. It seems like it's trying to establish a new foundation for the saga, maybe particularly for a younger audience, allowing it to potentially age correctly over time. Much like, the prequel trilogy has seen its initial criticism softened quite a bit, and its artistic merits reevaluated in recent years. What seemed awkward then is now seen as foundational by many. And regarding the Canto Bight subplot, yes, its execution is definitely debated, but couldn't its narrative purpose for Finn and Rey have been simply to create a necessary distance, allowing their individual character arcs to develop independently before they eventually reunite, giving them separate journeys of growth and self-discovery?
In Langley, British Columbia, lives one of Western Canada's best-kept secrets. We are Wild Education, Western Canada's largest reptile and small exotic animal rescue. And right now, we're launching our most urgent fundraiser ever.
Less than 1 year ago, we opened the doors to our brand new education center, a space we poured all of our savings into building. But due to changes in land development, we found out we only have 9 months to find a new place and move out. This will be the third time in 5 years we've been forced to relocate, and this time, we simply don't have the funds to do it again.
Unlike traditional rescues with puppies and kittens, reptiles don't get the same level of support. But our animals need it just as much because they don't have anywhere else to go. That's why we're asking for your help now.
Last year alone, we took in 153 animals, including reptiles, amphibians, and furry exotics like chinchillas, sugar gliders, ferrets, and even hedgehogs. Many came to us sick, injured, abandoned, or surrendered by families who could no longer care for them due to the rising cost of living.
One of those animals was Gary, a serval who couldn't find a home anywhere else in BC after his family broke apart. No one else could take him in, but we did. Because oftentimes, we are the last resort.
We are currently also home to 12 rescued sulcata tortoises, some weighing over 120 pounds. But we know more will come in this year, who need lots of space, warmth, and lifelong care. Wild Education isn't just a rescue, it's a mission. Our entire rescue is funded by our education program. This program travels to schools and other events to help teach about the natural history, conservation, and responsible ownership of these amazing animals. We give people the knowledge to hopefully prevent animals from ending up in our rescue in the first place.
But now, more than ever, the future of Wild Education, its current animals, its future animals depends on your support. We know it's a lot, but we're trying to raise $1 million to buy a permanent property. A forever home where we'll never have to move again, and where our animals can finally be safe for good.
So if you've ever wanted to make a big difference in the life of something a little different, this is your moment. Please visit www.wildeducation.ca to donate or click on the GoFundMe link. We need your help to save Wild Education so we can keep saving them.
All right, moving into our final round here, let's maybe explore that tension between artistic vision and audience expectations. Now, while I will concede that the film's climax, particularly the sequence on Arete, features some truly phenomenal action and visual spectacle. I mean, it looks amazing. But the narrative twist of Luke being just a forced projection, and then his subsequent, almost perfunctory disappearance, it fundamentally undermines the emotional impact of that sacrifice for me. It feels like a moment designed purely for shock value, but in doing so, it diminishes the profound, tangible heroism we associate with Luke Skywalker. It's like building up to this epic crescendo only to have the resolution just fall flat. It leaves you feeling a bit cheated of a truly impactful farewell. Furthermore, while yes, the film's financial success is undeniable, that alone cannot excuse a narrative that alienates such a significant portion of its core fan base. A film can earn a lot of money but still be considered, in a way, a commercial disappointment if it doesn't achieve its full potential by genuinely resonating with and expanding its dedicated audience. The deep division it created arguably cost the franchise more in long-term fan goodwill than any short-term box office gain could justify.
That's an interesting point about the balance between artistic vision and audience reception, and one I think is worth exploring, though I'd frame it quite differently. The film's substantial financial success, combined with the persistent, passionate debate it still generates years later. To me, that's not a mark of failure, but actually a testament to its cultural significance and its lasting impact. Some groundbreaking works, are simply ahead of their time, or they challenge an audience in ways they're initially unprepared for. Sometimes, segments of the audience are just perhaps not listening with an open mind, or maybe their expectations are too rigid for everyone, making it hard to fully embrace a new direction. Luke's projection and his subsequent transcendence into the Force, rather than a physical death, I see that as a powerful, almost spiritual culmination of his hermit path. It allows him to join the ranks of other Jedi Masters who transcended their physical forms, making his sacrifice both deeply selfless and profound, a final act of wisdom and protection. I genuinely encourage listeners, if they watch it again, to try and do so with an open mind, consciously setting aside maybe personal trauma and projections, as Virus might put it, that could color their initial reactions. It's a bit like how certain Marvel films, maybe initially disliked, become far more enjoyable and appreciated when you rewatch them without the burden of preconceived expectations or the weight of constantly comparing them to past successes. Just allowing the film to stand on its own merits often reveals the depth that its creators intended. So, in summarizing my position, I firmly believe The Last Jedi, despite, yes, its perceived imperfections and the strong, often polarized reactions it provoked, is actually a courageous and essential entry, one that really pushes the boundaries of the Star Wars universe. It offers, I think, an evolving and vital perspective on the Force, on its characters, and the very nature of heroism itself. It bravely introduces new material, it challenges long-held assumptions, and while it does ask a lot of its audience, I truly believe it will be viewed with increasing appreciation and understanding in the future. Much like earlier Star Wars installments that faced their own initial skepticism before being embraced as classics, it feels like it lays groundwork rather than simply, reiterating what came before.
I maintain, however, that while new content and creative exploration are undeniably welcome, even necessary for any long-running franchise, they should never come at the expense of coherent storytelling, fundamental character integrity, and the established lore that really forms the bedrock of that universe. Despite its commercial success, a film that provokes such deep, lasting division and relies on what I still see as breaking its own established rules and undermining its most beloved characters, well, it ultimately falls short as a quality piece of cinema within its own saga. It just leaves too many questions unanswered, too many narrative threads feeling incongruous, and in doing so, I think it compromises the very foundations it claims it's trying to build upon.
Well, Star Wars, The Last Jedi undeniably remains a deeply polarizing, complex topic within the Star Wars fandom, one that continually invites discussion, passionate debate, and certainly reevaluation from multiple viewpoints.
And it is precisely this rich, ongoing dialogue, in all its heated and nuanced forms that truly enriches the experience of engaging with material like this. It allows all of us to ponder the validity and the resonance of each side's arguments.
Call me Mr. Feelgood, we can dance and we can fly together.